Hi guys, in today's episode of Taylor Talks Trades, we're with Richard O'Donnell from Insure Repair. He's speaking about the insurance industry, how he's put a personal approach on it, and he's also talking to us about his up and coming new projects. I hope you enjoy. So, welcome on Richard.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'll start where I always start. How did you get into the trades?
I left school, I was an early leaver at 15 and in fact I wanted to be a mechanic. Funnily enough, I wanted to be a mechanic. I did work experience as a mechanic for the 3 or 4 days that you do it and was promised a job with Vauxhall. And so left school, went back to Vauxhall looking for my job, and the guy had left and they had no record of me as a work experience candidate or the potentially a job. So I was like, oh great. And
Oh no.
so then I was 15, sending letters out, to people, to companies looking for a job. And at that age, what chance have you got? And one of my uncles contacted me who was in the insurance reinstatement industry and said, do you want to come on board with us as an apprentice? I said, absolutely. So he says, well, I've got a position as an electrical apprentice. Come on board, see how you get on. So I did that. And by probably the second week, I realised I never wanted to be an electrician. No interesting enough for me, no exciting enough. But I definitely was interested in the insurance reinstatement industry. And more to the point, because as a kid, you don't know that exists, that industry, that it's an actual industry.
No, you're right,
itself.
aye.
You don't know.
Because I'm saying get into the trades, but it's like, that's all the trades, isn't it? It's just a totally different industry.
Aye. And you don't know about home insurance, you've never owned a home at that point. So, I was very interested in that. And, I liked the organisation. I liked the fact that there was a project where all the trades were on site at various different times. I liked the whole, I didn't like, but the fact, it amazed me the fact that the property was either fire damaged or smoke damaged or flood damaged, and turning it, reinstating it back to its pre-loss condition. That was all pretty cool to me. So that's what inspired me to carry on through the trade.
Yeah. So what happened with did you do the electrician's apprenticeship, or did you kind of stop that and then move, or?
I did do that. I did that for a while, and then it became apparent I was colourblind.
Right.
Just a tad.
Right.
But enough that
it might be important.
You don't want this guy working on cables. So that was what I did there. During my apprenticeship.
Just a tad.
No, at the college as well.
Oh no.
And I'd passed colourblind tests because it's a regular, it's a thing that you go through.
Yeah.
And I'd passed them, and then I'd failed one, and the lecturer was like, Richard, are you kidding me on today? And I was like, no, what's happened? And have you seen a colourblind test before?
No, I've not actually, no.
It's an assortment of colours.
Right.
And if you're not colourblind, you'll see there's a number there, like number 9 or whatever number it may be.
Right.
If you are colourblind, you'll just see colours.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
So yeah, it became apparent I was colourblind.
So you couldn't see any of the numbers then?
Some of them.
Ah, right.
Aye, so it's a shading thing.
Yeah.
So that was the situation there. At the same time, I didn't really want to be an electrician at that point. And the company I worked for were certainly not treating me as an electrical apprentice.
Right.
They were giving me all trades experience. So I was working all the time with plasterers or joiners or decorators, everyone, heating engineers, a lot. A vast amount of experience. The surveyors were taking me off jobs and taking me with them to go and check out surveying jobs. The contracts manager was doing the same thing. The owner of the business would sometimes pick me up from jobs and take me around other sites and whatnot. The huge amount of experience. I just knew that's where I wanted to be. That's what I wanted to do.
That's amazing, aye.
And so that's kind of how I got involved in that.
Yeah. And then how did that progress then? So was this with your uncle's company you were saying?
Yes.
And then how did you evolve to what happened after that?
So at that point, I was working there for a while, and then when I left there, working with family and whatnot, so no big drama, just that's how it went. I left there, and I wanted to get, I actually just wanted to save up to get a mortgage to get my first flat.
Yeah.
So I got myself an office job, got out the trade, got an office job thinking it would be more money than an apprenticeship. I'd save up enough for a deposit and then decide what I'm doing from there. So I left there, got an office job at one of the banks, and was amazed at all the things I didn't know. So I learned about customer values. I learned about structuring your day-to-day workload from a desk point of view. It was asset finance that I was dealing with. So I quickly did quite well in there, and ended up being in a wee elite team that did the funding for the likes of, back then it was David Beckham, Dwight York, all the footballers that were buying crazy Lambos all the time. That was really interesting, but it did teach me, it did make you grow up. As an apprentice, you're the laddie until you leave. Regardless, if you're there for 4 years, you're still the laddie until you leave. Leave, maybe come back as a tradesman. In an office environment, you're only the junior until you're trained. So, quickly trained.
That's a good point, actually.
I had never sent an email up until that point. You're young, and it was all fairly new back then. I'm 40 now. So, sent emails, as I say, customer values, and interaction with grown adults, treating you as a grown adult, even though you're just a wee teenager. Or as so you think. They just see you as someone in the office. So that was good. Saved up my deposit to buy my first flat, and then launched my business, and took it from there.
Aye.
Yeah.
And is that Insure Repair? So was that at that? Was it Insure Repair? Aye, sorry.
So it wasn't called that originally. It was called Property Repair.
Right.
And I rebranded it as Insure Repair predominantly because it's insurance reinstatement work that we do, and the previous name would give you the impression that you do other work.
Yeah,
and
makes sense.
We're constantly.
And did you at that time? Was it just insurance that you were doing when you got into that, or was it a bit of everything and then you niched down, or?
No, we've always just done two. It's always been two services mainly. It's been insurance repairs or renovations. Insurance repairs predominantly, and the renovations because we carry all the trades. So that was why. But we didn't. Believe it or not, the previous name before we rebranded all those years ago, the previous name would indicate any type of repair in a property. And you'd get things like, I've got a cracked tile, can you come out and do that? And it was just a waste of their time phoning us. And it was just a delay, and I was having to say, sorry, we can't help you, you can go elsewhere, recommend people and whatnot. So when the decision was made to rebrand, it was definitely the right decision. And obviously we work for various insurance companies, brokers, loss adjusters, and that name is synonymous with that industry. So it's
obvious what you do.
It's ideal, yeah.
Like
it is.
Aye, it does what it says on the tin.
Yep, absolutely.
Nah, it's good. The brand looks really good as well. It's strong.
Thank you.
See the vehicles and that, and the wraps and everything. It comes together good. The video content that you've got on your website and all of that. So you obviously put a lot into it.
Aye, thanks very much.
Nah,
it matters. You want the. See, we're a public orientated business. So in the insurance reinstatement industry, the public think that you always contact your insurer and they'll help you from there on in. And that's not always the case. It's far less the case than you'd imagine. In reality, various insurers don't have a network, and so or a panel, and so they will bounce that straight back to the policyholder, as is their model to do so, and state that the policyholder must obtain 2 or 3 estimates, bona fide reinstatement estimates, but nonetheless they've got to go ahead and do that themselves, and they don't always know who to call. And the influx of calls we get on a daily basis because of that model, back then and to this day, is incredible. Because from an insurer's point of view, having a network of contractors is expensive. It's one of the few costs of their business. So it's not always viable for them to do it. It takes a lot to put it in place. And so it's sometimes easier for them to tell the policyholder, we'll carry on with your claim once we approve the 2 or 3 out of the 2 or 3 estimates that you get, once we approve the one that fits this claim. And then they'll either settle direct with the contractor or they'll settle direct with the policyholder.
Quite interesting. So it's really, are you guys ever like the first call then? If somebody might say, I've had an issue, and they would maybe call you, and then would you say, right, this is what you need to do, and then you then direct them to contact their insurance company? Or
sometimes,
is there a bit of that as well?
Yep.
Because it is interesting, because you can't pay your insurance and you hope you'll never need to use it, but when that moment comes up, you homeowners probably worry a wee bit. Where do I go? What do I do?
Before I started my business, when I was only 18, and I had my first flat there, I was flooded from the chap upstairs. I know. And so I was already knew I was going to set up in business in the insurance reinstatement industry, but I'd never experienced it as a customer. And I was flooded by old Dennis up the stairs, who, when I went up to see him, he professed, "It's not me, son. That's not my pipes. Your pipe's above you." I thought that will be right. So that kind of experience, it made me think, like, come on, Dennis. My insurers were quite a good insurer. They got involved. They appointed a contractor. The contractor did the reinstatement. And that was all fine. And just watching the process happen again from a customer point of view, it just solidified the fact that is definitely,
So you've seen the gap in the market. Somebody needs to.
Well, there wasn't a gap, right? Because it's actually, the competitors were good. There just was potentially, the competitors were good in terms of they knew what they were doing, but they didn't potentially, work with the policyholder as well as they could do. They were just receiving claims from insurers, claims from adjusters, but not being very public faced. And I felt that was lacking.
So you put a bit more of a personal experience on it and kind of try to guide the. I understand what you're saying, because it's almost like if we're working for a homeowner, then there's a personal relationship there. If we're working for an insurance company, there's almost like this third party now, and it's like we're quite big on that as well, where we'll try to actually communicate with the homeowner as well and be like, look, this is when we're coming, this is what we're doing, because it's very easy for it to get stuck in the chain and then the communication drops. So
it is, it really is. And you've got to remember that the public don't know what you know. So it's not their fault. They're laymen's in terms of our industry. We're probably laymen's in the industry they're in, etc. We're all people. So I just felt that as much as there was really good competition, actually. The other competitive contractors were good, but there was little in the way of directly assisting the public, and that was needed. Down England, it's still kind of like that. Actually, we're better up here in terms of public-facing businesses. Down in England, they still mostly take their instruction from a network or an adjuster or an insurer. It's rarely that they're marketing to assist the public in the insurance reinstatement industry anyway. So we did and we do for that reason.
So you had a good bit of self-belief in you.
I did. I'd learned a lot. So I'd learned a lot. It's not often that an apprentice gets to sample other trades as well as doing his job. So as well as working with electricians, I did work with decorators, plasterers, joiners, heating engineers regularly. And so it would get to the point where a particular tradesman would say, "Can I have Richard today?" Because I might be good at helping them with whatever. Or an electrician might want me that day because I'm able to go under floors, and he might not want to go under floors because he's not an apprentice anymore. Or that sort of thing. Certainly dropped a load of ceilings as an apprentice. A lot of lath and plaster ceilings. So I learned the importance, and this was from the owner of the business that we worked for, the importance of polythene everything, taping everything, and just making sure that everything was adequately protected, and then dropping that lath and plaster ceiling. Tidying up was important before you started resheeting, and just the mechanisms of how you carry out the job. So I'd learned a lot. So when I decided to launch my company, I knew exactly what theory-wise, what I wanted to achieve, and what I could achieve, and then just put it into practice.
No, that's good.
And for the first year was incredible. Didn't know what to expect, so I didn't know really what would be good or bad. I just wanted to not fail. And then in year two, so we were just helping the public in year one. Year two, a handful of loss adjusters, all within a few months, contacted the company to say, "You actually helped us last year with a claim for Mrs. Such and Such or Mr. Such and Such." We're really impressed with how you carried it out, and the duration of the claim was shorter than we'd expect. And the policyholder was delighted, and we'd like you to help us out with more claims. And
that's brilliant.
And it kind of went off from there.
And then you just start to make a bit of a name in the industry for yourself.
So that was.
That's brilliant.
So that was kind of.
And what sort of? So that was 2004 you started then.
Yes.
And So I was probably a bit keen to see like how did the recession affect you? The, like sort of the 2008 crash as they call it. Was that something that impacted you, or were you?
I attended an insurance seminar around that time.
Yep.
Where the thought was that because it was a credit crunch and the public would generally have less money, the worry was that there would be loads of fraudulent claims.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen.
Oh.
So claims actually slowed down a little bit,
Yeah.
but the influx of fraudulent claims that was expected didn't happen.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that was interesting because we all kind of agreed that there might be a concern that would be that could happen, but it didn't. It didn't. And
it
so
would make sense. That it's not something I would
I
even
know.
have thought of, but
Nah.
it's like.
So I attended that seminar. That was the concern from the insurers. It certainly didn't play out that way. Claims dipped a little bit, but pretty much remained the same.
Yeah.
So the credit crunch for us was okay. The recession for us was okay. In terms of me personally, obviously, I was able to then buy a lot of properties because of that, because things were a bit cheaper and whatnot, and now is the time sort of thing.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah.
And how's it progressed over the years for there then? So like when you first started, was that just you yourself, or you brought in kind of a team round about you now, I'm guessing? And...
Yeah, so first started it was me from a room in my first flat with a desk and how
everyone... Is this the one that got flooded?
Just based from a room in that flat and operating with a bunch of really good subcontractor trades.
Yeah.
And then a year later that we had 3 staff on the books, and then 4, and then 5, and then progressed from there. So that's kind of how it did. And then in 2006, I bought the offices in Edinburgh and Montrose Terrace. Just by chance, actually. It's a really good street that we're on because it's right in the centre of town, really. But there's free parking. And I've always said that I'd love an office in the street because you can park, and it's densely populated with tenements, and we obviously help the public. And I was passing one day, and there was a board up to let, and so I pulled over, and the chap was doing viewings. Nipped in and spoke to him, and kind of convinced him that it was a better idea to sell. Of which he did. He accepted my offer within a couple of weeks, and then I bought it. So it's one of the best things I've done because it gave us a solid base that we owned, and we just took off from there. No longer a home-based business. Now it was an office with office staff and the trades that worked for us could come directly to the office and no longer to my flat. So yeah, I've
done that a few times just in between, like moving offices and stuff as well. And we were like running out of the kitchen and had like vans at the house and all that, and like the guys coming into your actual kitchen, and you're like, people didn't see that actually. That sometimes that's just you've got to do what needs to be done.
You do, aye.
It's that you can go through some crazy moments like that, and you actually forget what it's like to then have the office, and then when we got moved again and stuff, you're like, oh, that's great, like out of the kitchen again and stuff. But sometimes there's just wee bits like that where you've just got to make it happen and kind of push on. What about the branding back then? Was that as important as what it is now? Because it was
important.
Aye,
it was massively important, and that was what differentiated you. Well, back then it was the Yellow Pages. So you had to make sure that your logo, your brand, your service offering was as such that you would be the person that was called, or at least one of them. And that certainly was the case. And so branding was massively important back then, just as important as it is now.
I forgot about the Yellow Pages, to be honest.
It was brilliant.
I know,
it was really good back then.
The company that I served my apprenticeship with, I think they were like big in the Yellow Pages. Back then.
We really did invest heavily in the Yellow Pages.
Was that as competitive as like what everything is now, or easier, or?
It was easier.
Was it?
It was easier because if you had a good reputation, which you would develop quickly, good news travels fast, and everyone reverted to the Yellow Pages for whatever service they were looking for. And we'd be listed in builders, we'd be listed in fire and flood damage restoration, roofers, joiners, so we'd be listed in all of them. So we could be captured, because most of the time people would just go, I need a builder. But they don't specifically need a builder, because we're not building a house. But for the public's perception, they need a builder, so they go to the building section, look for a company they vaguely recognise, or a company that potentially looks like they could do the job well, and so yeah, branding was massively important for that perspective. But Yellow Pages was good. It really did work.
It's interesting.
Yale.com was also good when it first started out. You know, that was a big medium for public claims and public renovations for us. So yeah.
Is there a lot of do you do a lot of private work now, like for private homeowners? Is it all predominantly the insurance company, or is there still a split there?
Yeah, yeah. We do a vast amount of reinstatements for the public in terms of claims. We do renovation work, mostly in Edinburgh, renovation work. So New Town of Edinburgh, cellar conversions, full renovations, and we organise that with military precision because we've got all the trades. Yeah. So it gets booked in. We've got set service levels as well, so it gets booked in on an exact date. Yeah. There's an estimated completion date which is there or thereabouts, and we provide a 24 months guarantee with further renovations as well as the insurance reinstatement work. That's really good. So yeah, the public and insurer-led stuff, there is a split, and we cater to both. Yeah.
And have you got a lot of guys on your books then, or you still got the kind of subcontractor kind of model, or is it a bit of both?
We split it just because the amount of trades we carry is
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and it's varied as well.
And the market can sometimes can shift one way or another. So we always keep a nice split, 60-40 between guys in the books and subcontractors.
I take my hat off to guys like yourself that has to balance all them trades, because it's like, I know how hard it is with one trade. We're just predominantly roofing. There is sometimes maybe the rendering side of it and stuff that ties in closely with roofing, but predominantly it's roofing. So I can only imagine when and we sometimes get it as well, like there maybe something happens when we're on a job, or maybe we're actually working for somebody and they say, oh, do you know a such and such, a joiner or a painting and decorator or whatever, and it's like sometimes you've got to bring the trades in and you try and help a customer, but it's really tough. Yeah. It's a real tough thing to do. So,
but to be fair, the guys they're all good at working together. Yeah. They're a good bunch of guys that look out for each other. You would also know pretty quickly if there was an idiot in the squad, because the guys will not have it. They're quite quick to discuss the fact that person who's been in the job 2 or 3 days might not be the one. Yeah. Sometimes persevere, they'll be okay, but most of the time the team will tell you. Yeah. So they work well together. They've got certain ways of working. They're a big squad, and so they help each other. Yeah. Because the idea is obviously to make sure the policyholder is happy when you arrive, happy when you leave, and everything in between. So no, they're a good bunch.
Going forward then, what's the growth of Insure Repair looking like?
It's really good. So we cover all of the central belt with great ease, and we move up or down depending on if there's a surge of claims or the insurance companies request us to go to a certain area, we can do it. For example, in 2009, insurers requested or asked if we could set up a base to cover the Cumbria Cockermouth floods back in 2009, 2010. So we did that. We set up a base in Sheffield, and we operated in Sheffield, Rotherham, Doncaster, and just mirrored the service down there. It was really good. It was about a year and a half actually, because we dealt with the surge, and then all the resulting claims off the back, reinstatement claims off the back of it, and then so that was really good. Then we found all our staff jobs after that, before closing the doors on Sheffield, and moving back up here. So
that's interesting.
In the insurance industry, you've got to help. So if there's a surge anywhere, you should really be looking to try and help the insurers and go there. So comfortably, our area is the central belt of Scotland. We're looking at offices in Glasgow because that's a no-brainer. It doesn't seem that far between Edinburgh and Glasgow, and we do centrate. We've got trades in Glasgow now. Yeah. But it will be far easier when we launch the office in Glasgow.
It does make sense, because then it's like Edinburgh to Glasgow's maybe not as far, but then when you start going to like the other side of Glasgow, that is far.
So that's what we're looking at there. We've obtained insurer clients, loss adjuster clients, intermediaries, BRNs, and obviously the public. We're helping the public. So that's the growth. The model is just as it is, and just to grow it.
And do you think you would ever take it all over the UK, like what you were saying with like when you went down and set up in Cumbria with Sheffield? Is that something you would want to do again?
I don't know. It's interesting. I would allow Insure Repair to be set up in London because it's a similar, obviously on a larger scale, but the models, the requirement's the same. So I would consider London, and there's ongoing talks about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Insure Repair I would certainly consider Insure Repair in London, because it would be the same service as we carry out up here, densely populated area, some high net worth, a huge requirement for the service.
Yeah.
So I would consider London, yeah.
So what does the future hold then?
Well, the immediate future, in November, we launch Emergency Repair. Emergency Repair is obviously a UK contractor network of emergency contractors, and see, at the moment it doesn't actually exist where the public have got direct access to emergency contractors that will definitely turn up.
Yeah.
And our software is such that when the customer phones up for an emergency job, they prepay.
Yeah.
So they pick the service they're looking for. So say it's emergency plumbing, they prepay, and they receive an email back that says, you know, our emergency plumber will be with you within 2 hours. Yeah. Which they will be there within 2 hours. They attend, they make it safe, and they leave. Yeah. There's no time spent, you know, trying to fix everything on emergency rates. It's just get out there and make it safe. Yeah. And that's what's going to be happening all across. We've carried out a soft launch this year actually.
Yeah.
And it went really, really well.
That's good.
And the network of contractors that we've got, most of them worked for us in 2009 when we had our office in Sheffield.
Oh, brilliant.
So most of them have been tried and tested. They're really, really good. And yeah, so we're looking forward to that launching. It's been a lot behind the scenes, website, branding, you know, all that sort of stuff.
And you've not done that for a while. We're running your
quite a long time.
Insure Repair for so long, and then so it's like it's back to it again.
So and the last part of the jigsaw was the software, just to bring all that in, because it's a lot of interaction with the customer, just so they know what's happening and when, and so they can track the tradesman, you know, and when he's going to be there, when he's completed the make safe, the customer signs it off, so it tells our system that the job's been carried out and that they're happy, and then that system automatically pays the tradesman, or the tradesperson, within 48 hours. So it's really it's
kind of win for everybody then.
It's really, a great service, and the soft launch went brilliantly, and it's good for the public because they can phone an emergency plumber or an emergency roofer, and they can, and the chap will say, or the office of that company will say, yeah, we'll be with you within a couple of hours. That's fine, but what if they don't show up? Yeah. So this way, we've got more than enough trades than we need, more than enough. You know, 6 of every trade in every single postcode area is the idea. And so when they're told that we're coming, emergency repair are coming, and they'll get an email to that effect. They can track the tradesman arrives, does the make safe, and leaves. And it's a straightforward service. They're not thinking will he or will she turn up or not.
Because that's a big worry for homeowners, especially if there's a leak or something's happening there and then, and the weather's against them.
It's a huge worry, and all the while, if it's a leak, the damage is getting worse.
Getting worse,
So if you know that within 2 hours, it's usually about 35 minutes. You know, but say within 2 hours the tradesperson is going to attend. That's a huge weight off your shoulders in that moment of time when you need them.
Absolutely.
And there's in that market, there's a lot of over-promising and under-delivering. And this does the opposite.
That's amazing.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Everyone's ready. It could launch now, but we're just kind of, we'd said for months we're going to launch it middle of November, so we're leaving it
it's
at
good
that.
timing with the weather. That'll be just around the corner.
It is. So we'll be able to help a lot of people.
You're going to be busy this winter then, that's for sure.
And the growth of Insure Repair, when you mentioned that earlier, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that there'll be, you know, hundreds of claims that occur off the back of any number of these emergencies. And so maybe it'll be that Insure Repair grow to service that need.
That makes sense, So it might be that you've went out, you've made it safe, and then it's like, if you actually need it reinstated, they could then come to Insure Repair.
Yes, that's potential. That's potential growth for the future.
And it's good for the client or the homeowner as well, because then they're not exactly tied in with that. It's like, it's almost like this bit's separate. Get them some breathing room and allow them to kind of calm down after that happening, and then they'll probably be quite impressed by the service, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
If Insure Repair's going to be the same, then they'll probably want to use them. So
nobody wants an emergency company coming out standing there trying to fix everything on emergency rates and then trying to upsell, etc.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, standalone service, get out there and make it safe. That's
It does
most
make
important.
sense.
Yeah,
it does make sense because we even like we've got quite a good setup like with the roofing and like we struggle for emergency stuff. Like we're no like a lot of our work's proactive and it's all booked in and it's planned and we're good for an organisational point of view and communicating with customers and letting them know that we will be there when we say we will. But when the weather turns really bad, like we aren't really a reactive company, and a lot of the time we're kind of like, well, we might be able to get to you, but we never promise because, like you said, we didn't want to over-promise and under-deliver.
Insure Repair is the same.
Yeah.
Insure Repair are not a reactive company at all.
It's hard because
that's why it should be a standalone service.
Yeah, it puts a spoke in the wheel. Like your company, if you squeeze somebody in, it's then going to have a knock-on effect somewhere else. Yeah. So
it's been said over the years. Could you guys not carry out emergencies? And the answer really is no. Mm-hmm. Insure Repair, the business model is such that we carry out reinstatement work after the fact. Yeah. You want to be phoning the company that can help you now.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And so emergency repair has nothing to do with Insure Repair. It's a standalone service. It's got a network of subcontractors. Yeah. They're not on the books. Mm-hmm. They don't need to be on the books. Mm-hmm. The model is such that they attend within 2 hours, they make it safe, and they leave.
Yeah. And these guys or girls as well that's going to be attending, they're going to want to attend because they're going to want to be part of that model. You know, they're going to have an obligation to be like, well, this is good that I'm getting the calls for this. So
we're getting must be up to 10 inquiries a day across the UK from trades trying to join the panel, and that's based on a soft launch and some small marketing. Yeah. That's because the actual model makes perfect sense. Yeah. It's needed.
No, that's good.
So yeah, looking forward to that. That's in November, and you know, we'll see where that goes.
Brilliant. No, that's awesome, mate. Thanks for coming on and sharing that with us.
Cheers,
thanks again.
Cheers. Good man.